Welcome to the Baboom Baboom podcast, your go-to source for expert tips on car stereo installation, vehicle wiring, and all things wiring related. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just getting started, we've got the advice to help you power up your ride. Get ready to crank up the volume on your knowledge and make your next wiring project a success.
Welcome to the deep dive. Ever wrestled with speaker wire that just wouldn't cooperate? Especially in a tight spot in your car or maybe behind the TV.
Oh, definitely.
Well, today we're tackling a detail that seems small, but honestly can make a huge difference in your audio setup.
Right. We're talking about whether your wire is fine or coarse stranded.
Exactly. It's something kind of surprising.
Yeah, we tend to focus on the big stuff, right? Wire thickness, is it copper, is it CCA?
Sure, the gauge, the material.
But how the wire is actually built inside lots of thin strands versus fewer thick ones, that affects, well, everything from how easy it is to install to how long it lasts.
And even maybe performance. Wow. Well, we'll get into that.
It subtly touches on it, yeah.
Okay, so let's get down to basics first. For someone who maybe hasn't thought about this, what is wire stranding?
Okay, think about it like this. Instead of one single solid metal wire, picture like a rope.
Okay.
Stranded wire uses a whole bunch of smaller conductive wires, and they're all twisted or bundled together.
Okay, so not solid.
It's not solid. And that construction is really key to understanding the differences we're going to talk about.
Got it. And the two main types we're looking at are fine-stranded and coarse-stranded. Quick definitions.
Sure. Fine-stranded wire has a lot of really thin individual strands. Pick it up, you'll notice right away it's super flexible, bends easily.
Pliable.
Exactly. Coarse-stranded, on the other hand, uses fewer strands, but each one is significantly thicker.
Which makes it
much stiffer, less willing to bend, holds its shape more.
Right. Now, an important point, and this came up in the background info we looked at from Baboom Baboom, both types can be made of the same actual metal, right?
Absolutely. You can have fine-stranded pure copper or coarse-stranded pure copper. Same goes for CCA, that's copper-clad aluminum.
Which is basically aluminum wire with a copper coating.
That's it. Cheaper option, usually. So the stranding fine, of course, that's a separate thing from the material itself.
Good distinction. So our mission today is really to give you the lowdown on this.
Yeah, help you make informed choices for your audio projects, knowing the tech side and the practical side of actually wiring stuff up.
Perfect. Let's jump right into the most obvious difference then. Flexibility. How the wire actually feels and handles.
This is where fine-stranded really shines.
Why is it so much more flexible?
It's just the sheer number of those tiny, thin strands that can slide past each other easily, allowing the whole wire to bend and conform really well.
And that matters because...
Well, think about routing wires. Behind a car dashboard, under carpets, through tight channels in a wall.
Yeah, nightmare spots.
Fine-stranded wire can just navigate those awkward angles and tight spaces with way less fuss.
I'm picturing trying to bend a stiff, coarse wire around a 90-degree angle behind a panel. Ugh.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Coarse-stranded wire with those thicker strands, it just doesn't want to bend sharply. It fights you.
So it holds its shape, which is not what you want there.
Right. You might end up having to make these wide looping turns, or the wire just won't sit flat. It can be a real pain.
Okay. And we saw him mention that pro installers often prefer the fine stuff.
They do. For professionals, it's not just about looks, though that's part of it. A clean install is often more reliable.
Makes sense.
Fine-stranded lets them run cables neatly, hugging corners, staying tucked away. Less chance of it getting pinched or damaged later.
And it probably looks much tidier, too.
Definitely looks more professional. Secure mounting is easier, too.
Okay, handling. Clear win for fine-stranded. But let's talk audio. Electrical performance. Is there actually a conductivity difference?
Generally speaking, if you have the same gauge, the same overall thickness, the basic conductivity is going to be very, very similar.
Okay.
But there are some subtle things going on electrically. Fine-stranded wire, because of all those individual strands, has a much greater total surface area.
More surface. Okay, what does that matter?
It can slightly reduce something called the skin effect.
Skin effect. All right, you got to unpack that a little.
Okay, so it's this tendency for higher frequency electrical signals, like the treble in your music, to travel more along the outer surface or skin of a conductor rather than right through the middle.
Huh. Weird.
It is a bit weird, but because fine stranded wire has more surface area compared to coarse or solid wire of the same size?
It gives those high frequencies more path options on the surface.
Kind of, yeah. So in theory, it might conduct those high frequencies a tiny, tiny bit more efficiently. Now we're talking really small differences here.
So probably not something most people.
Need top-quality electrical wire? Baboom Baboom's got you covered. Get your 6-pack today. Each combo comes in 6 different colors and a total of 600 feet of wire. Perfect for any project, and you won't find a better price in the industry. Head over to baboombaboom.com now to snag yours. That's baboombaboom.com.
People would hear.
In most typical car or home audio setups, especially with bass and mid-range frequencies, the difference is usually negligible. Like, you'd need serious equipment to even measure it reliably.
Or maybe for the super high-end audiophile crowd.
Possibly. You know, it's more of a factor in things like radio frequencies or, yes, maybe in those ultra-high fidelity systems where people are chasing every last tiny percentage point of performance.
I remember reading about some designer claiming they heard a difference with tweeters.
Exactly. That's the level we're talking about. It's often more theoretical than audible for most of us.
Okay. What about the other side? Does Coarse Stranded have any electrical edge?
Well, because the thicker strands might pack together a bit more densely, sometimes you might see slightly lower DC resistance.
Lower resistance is usually good, right?
It is, but again, the difference here is typically so small. We're talking fractions of an ohm, usually. Unlikely to make any real difference to the sound you hear.
So the main takeaway electrically is don't sweat it too much.
Pretty much. For 99% of applications, fine and coarse of the same gauge will perform almost identically from a purely electrical sound quality perspective. Fine stranded just has that theoretical edge at very high frequencies.
Got it. Okay, let's talk durability. There's this idea, maybe, that because fine strand is made of tiny threads, it's, like, delicate.
Yeah, that's a common thought. It seems logical, right? All those thin strands must be easy to break.
Is that true?
It's nuanced. Good quality fine-stranded wire, especially with a tough, flexible insulation jacket, is actually very durable for its intended use.
But there's always a but.
But the ends are more prone to fraying. If you just strip the wire and try to clamp it down in a screw terminal, some of those tiny strands might splay out or braid off.
Like the end of a rope unraveling.
Exactly. That's why proper termination is really important with fine-stranded. You either need to tin the ends with solder, making them solid.
Or use good quality connectors, like ferrules or proper primp terminals.
Precisely. That keeps all the strands together and ensures a solid connection.
Okay. How does Coarse Stranded hold up in comparison?
Coarse stranded, with its thicker strands, is generally more resistant to that kind of fraying. It can handle rougher handling at the connection point, maybe? Think high vibration environments, too.
Seems tougher then.
In that specific way, perhaps. However, and this is really key, think about repeated bending.
Like in a car door hinge area.
Perfect example. Or anywhere the wire needs to flex constantly. The very flexibility of fine stranded wire makes it much less likely to suffer from metal fatigue and eventually snap.
Because the individual strands can move more easily.
Right. A stiffer, coarse stranded wire, being bent back and forth repeatedly in the same spot, it's more likely to work harden and eventually break.
That's a really crucial point for longevity, especially in vehicles.
Absolutely. So while coarse might seem more robust initially, fine-stranded often wins out in situations involving movement and flexing over the long term.
And of course, the insulation quality matters hugely for both types.
Oh, massively. Good insulation protects against abrasion, chemicals, heat, and proper strain relief at connectors is vital too, regardless of stranding.
Okay, let's shift to the practical matter everyone thinks about.
Many?
Price. How do they compare?
Generally, fine-stranded wire costs more.
Why is that?
It's just a more complex manufacturing process. Drawing out all those really thin copper strands and bundling them accurately takes more work, more machinery complexity.
So you pay for the flexibility, essentially.
You do. And because of that higher cost, you might not find it as often in the really basic budget wiring kits you see everywhere.
So Coarse Stranded is the cheaper one.
Typically, yes. It's more economical to produce, so it often ends up in those lower cost packages. You'll find it more readily available in, say, standard hardware stores, too.
So if you're on a tight budget, the coarse wire looks tempting.
It can be.
But are there, like, hidden costs? Or maybe just trade-offs we need to weigh up?
Definitely trade-offs. While you might save a few bucks up front on coarse stranded, Think about the installation time and frustration factor.
The flexibility thing again.
Exactly. The extra cost of fine stranded can genuinely be worth it just in terms of making the installation smoother, faster, and less aggravating,
Yeah,
especially in tricky spots.
that's a really good point. Your
Yeah.
time is worth something too, right? Wrestling with stiff wire isn't fun.
Not at all. And getting those clean, tight runs with fine stranded just makes for a better, more reliable result in the end. It has value, both in looks and in preventing future problems.
So penny wise, pound foolish potentially with the coarse stuff,
Yeah.
if the installation is complex.
It can be, yeah.
Okay, let's talk specific use cases. Where does stranding really matter most? Car audio seems like a prime example.
Oh, absolutely. We've touched on it. But in cars, you're almost always dealing with tight spaces, weird angles, routing through trim panels, under carpets.
Everywhere is cramped.
Pretty much. The flexibility of fine stranded wire there isn't just nice to have, it's almost essential for a good, clean, and safe installation.
Prevents pinching, snagging, rattles.
All of that. Trying to force stiff, coarse, stranded wire through those same paths, it's incredibly difficult. You risk damaging the wire, not getting panels back on properly. It's just asking for trouble.
Makes total sense.
What
What about home audio? Is it as critical there?
Maybe not always as critical, but still often beneficial. In a home setup, you might have simpler runs, maybe just straight along a baseboard.
Where the stiffness isn't such a big deal.
Potentially, yeah. If it's a straightforward path, coarse stranded might be perfectly adequate and save you a bit of money.
Whoa.
But even at home, think about connecting to the back of your amplifier or receiver, often in a tight cabinet.
Yeah, that can be fiddly.
Or routing wires neatly behind furniture. Fine stranded wire just makes those tasks easier and results in a much tidier, more manageable setup. It drapes better, it takes bends more cleanly.
So maybe less of a necessity in some home scenarios, but still preferable for convenience and a cleaner look.
That's a good way to put it. Fine stranded still offers practical advantages, even if the absolute need for extreme flexibility isn't always there like it is in a car. Depends on your specific layout and how neat you want it to be.
All right, let's try and pull this all together then. What are the main things people should walk away with when choosing between fine and coarse stranded wire?
I think the biggest thing is understanding it's not just about the price. Your choice really impacts how easy the wire is to work with.
The installation experience.
Yeah, and its long-term reliability, especially if there's any movement or vibration involved. And then there are those, very subtle electrical performance nuances we talked about.
And it really feels like, based on everything we've discussed, if you're aiming for a quality audio setup, especially in a car, or even just value flexibility and neatness at home,
Fine stranded seems like the way to go generally.
yeah, it just offers more advantages in handling and potentially durability in certain situations.
And it's interesting that Baboom CCA wire we saw mentioned, they positioned it as a balanced choice.
Right, suggesting you can get the benefits of fine stranding, the flexibility, the easier install, even with the more budget-friendly CCA material.
Exactly. So you get that better handling and bend resilience, which is often worth it, even if you're not opting for pure copper.
So the final thought really is, don't just grab any old wire. Think about the stranding. Seems like a small detail.
But it can make a real difference to your frustration levels during install and the overall success and longevity of your system. Great sound really does start with getting the fundamentals right.
Including the wire construction. Thanks. That was a really insightful look into something often overlooked.
My pleasure. It's definitely worth.
Need top-quality electrical wire? Baboom Baboom's got you covered. Get your 6-pack today. Each combo comes in 6 different colors and a total of 600 feet of wire. Perfect for any project, and you won't find a better price in the industry. Head over to baboombaboom.com now to snag yours. That's baboombaboom.com.